Hey guys, um, I just want to preface this video with a trigger warning because I am going to be talking about suicide and emotional abuse, and they're not easy topics to talk about. So, yeah, if you can't handle that topic or if it's going to be too triggering, I advise you to either have self-care or a support person or just don't watch this, okay? So, be safe. I want to tell you the story of how I got this hoodie. Okay, and you look at it, and it looks like it's a pretty butterfly pattern, and but the pattern on the wings, it's actually writing. Okay, it says, "Be kind to your mind. Focus on the good things. Live, laugh, love, dream." That's what that's what it says on my hoodie on the butterfly wings. So it's kind of a subliminal message, but it's one I needed at the time when I got it. So I want to take you back to December 2023. Kind of in October, my cat Monroe started to get sick, and in November we took her to the vet, and we couldn't afford a whole bunch of tests, so they just kind of threw a medication at us and said hope for the best. And of course it was a medicine that was absolutely vile to her. Like, she would smell it and she would run away. So it was absolute torture having to catch her to give her this medicine, because you can't talk a cat into understanding that they need to take a medicine that tastes absolutely horrible. I mean, she would gag and drool every time we had to give it to her. It was horrible, and we had to be so mean, snatching her up and holding her down to give it to her. And, there was nothing to mask the smell or the taste. Even I was gagging from it. So she finished the medication, and immediately, after she finished, she started to get diarrhea again. And eventually, she threw up blood, and then she prolapsed her rectum outside of her body, which was really horrible. And now, this was the start of December, so like December 2nd, I went and saw Godzilla Minus One, and I'm like, finally, my year is looking up. How dare I even be happy? How dare I be happy? Because not even 2 weeks later, everything crashed down. Everything in my life crashed down. This is hard. This is hard to talk about. December 15th, we had to get Monroe euthanized. We had to take her to the vet, and they had to put her down. And, we stayed with her for that. I didn't want to leave her alone for that and have her be scared and feeling like we'd abandoned her. So, and after it was done, and my mom gave me time alone with her, I sang a song that we sing during the Advent season called "Even So, Lord Jesus, Quickly Come." And ironically, this year, the 15th of December is on a Sunday, and we're going to do that song, and it is going to hella trigger me. So I'm going to have to really try to keep my head out of the flashbacks and keep telling myself that I'm not in that vet's office, because that's going to be bad. But, so, and honestly, the distress Monroe was in her suffering was worse to me than her dying, because when she was gone, I knew her pain was over, because she was in pain. Like, she was in the kind of pain there was nothing we could do about it except help her end it. And it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. Part of the reason we couldn't do it was we couldn't afford it, and part of the reason is we couldn't be away from Dad for any length of time. So, my freaking trauma brain kind of blames Dad for it, which probably isn't right. But, I just felt this deep hatred and rage and wrath towards him when we came home, because, I went to his bedroom door and I'm like, it's done. And he's like, okay. Like, no, I'm so sorry. Nothing. He's like, okay. So, anyway, so we buried her in my backyard and, Mom dug the hole and I put the dirt on her. And dug some of the hole too, but, I put the dirt on her. And I put flowers on her before I covered her up. I wanted her to have flowers. And I put flowers on her grave a lot. When I find them about ready to come off the plant, I'll put them on her grave. So then my dad went and had some pretty bad falls on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve. So December 24th, 25th, and 31st. So Christmas Eve, he was, my mom took him to see me sing at church. And he fell in the driveway. I went into the house thinking, oh, she'll get him out and they'll just come walking into the house. And they were out there and out there and out there and weren't coming in. And I didn't hear Mom yell for help or anything. So I went out there and he's on the ground and she's like whispering at him to get up, get up. And I'm like, Mom, why didn't you say something? And apparently he'd let go of his walker. That's what he always does when he falls, is he lets go of the walker and he falls. And so we had to call our neighbors. They were outside. They barely spoke English, but I managed to get them to understand that my dad had fallen and we can't get him up. So they helped us get him in the house. Thank God, these nice people. And Christmas Day, my sister was right behind him and he still went down. And he fell on the steps. Because our house has 2 steps down from the living room to the family room, and he fell on those steps. And so it was me and my sister hauled him into bed. And then New Year's Eve, it's like as if Christmas wasn't enough, you had to ruin New Year's Eve too. And and New Year's Eve, it was just me and Mom. And he fell on the steps again, exactly where he fell Christmas Eve. I was telling Mom, don't take him out of bed, just let him stay in his room. But she insisted on getting him up. And I'm like, he's going to fall again. And she's like, no, he won't. Well, guess what? He did. One of the big things in this house is that I will see a danger coming and I will say something and people will be like, oh, no, it won't. And then it does happen and I get swept up in the consequences of it. It's like being chained to somebody that's on a train track. The train is coming, but you can't get off of the track unless they move too. And, I can be struggling to get off of those train tracks, but no matter what I do, the other person just sits there and we both get hit by the train. That's basically what happens in my house all the fucking time. So anyway, yeah. But New Year's Eve when he fell, I lost it. I blew up. I threw a chair across from the kitchen across the living room. I'm surprised it didn't break the TV. My dad was on the floor trying to crawl to his room, and I am screaming the most vulgar things at him because I just couldn't take it anymore. This was the man who has just done so much damage to me in my life, and now he had to do this too. And I know he didn't fall on purpose. It wasn't the fall. It was just the fact that we can never have a life because of him. I could never have a life because of him, and here he is reminding me of why. So, I was asking him, why you do this to us all the time? And he didn't have an answer. And I'm like, why can't you just die? Everybody wants you to die. We all hate you. We can't stand you. You are just a burden on this family. You are just a waste of our time and our space. And why can't you just die? God, I wish you would just die. I hate you so much. Just hurry up and die. Die right now. Die right now, Dad. Die right now. And you don't say those things to people. You don't say those things to people. You don't say that. I was wrong to say that. Even if it was true, it was wrong. You don't say those things. You don't say things like that. No matter how much you hate somebody, you don't say things like that to them. And here's the thing, it was New Year's Eve. So everybody that mom tried to call, they couldn't come because they'd been drinking, and they couldn't drive a car because they were over the legal limit. They were not wasted, but I can't drive, I've been drinking. My sister, my Aunt Tina, just, and my mom wouldn't call the fire department to come and help us. So we both hurt ourselves. We pulled muscles, we wrenched joints, I'm surprised nobody tore a ligament, but we got him back into bed. Now, when my dad falls, he's a dead weight. He can't help you get him up no matter what. It's all you. He cannot even support his weight when he falls. So, we dragged him onto the bed, and of course all the padding on the bed got messed up, and he had the audacity to complain about that after what he put us through. After what he put us through, he had the audacity to complain about his freaking bed, and I was still screaming, and everybody was screaming at me to shut up, and I'm like, nobody in this house cares how I feel. I'm just gonna go in my room and I'm gonna fucking kill myself, and I'm gonna solve all your problems right now. Goodbye. I hate you all. And I went into my room and I slammed the door and I kicked it so hard there's a crack in it. 2 cracks in the shape of like my heel. And I was bawling, I was crying and screaming, and I put a plastic bag over my head. I put a plastic bag over my head and I tried to suffocate. And then I panicked and I pulled it off. And I tried a couple times. And I even got under the covers of my bed at one point, thinking the covers would make it so I can't get it off of my head, no matter how much I want to. But I just threw all the covers off my bed onto the floor and ripped the bag off of my head. It's because I was sober. If I had drank enough to be drunk, I probably would have succeeded. So anyway, I just went to bed. I didn't wait for midnight. I went out and sat on the couch, but I didn't watch a ball drop. My mom didn't even know I was there, because she was facing the other way into the kitchen, and I went back to my room, and I went to bed, and I stayed in bed, and the next day I only got up to go to the bathroom and get my dad his morning meds, because you can't not be a caregiver even when you're dying and depressed and just suicidal as hell. When you're a caregiver with no help, that duty never stops, and until you're dead. And I just laid in my bed and I pulled the covers over my head, thinking maybe if I just go to sleep I'd suffocate, but I couldn't fall asleep, and I kept lifting the blanket up to get air in. But my mom got up and she came in to check on me, and I yelled at her to go away. I mean, how could she care now when she didn't last night? I mean, I was so mean to her. I was lashing out. I was screaming. It was my internal scream was coming out. It's like that scene in Godzilla -1 when Godzilla just trash Ginza and you see Shikishima on his knees, he starts screaming as Godzilla walks away. Like, that's where I was. I was in that moment. And I didn't realize I was going to be in that moment when I saw the movie. So Godzilla -1 was the only good thing that year. And just when I thought, okay, no more bad things can happen, well, the entire catastrophe of the end of the year. And that's what makes me afraid to be happy, because there's always a catastrophe. So New Year's Day, I'm in bed, and my mom is coming in, and I'm lashing out at her, and I'm telling her to fuck off. I don't want to see her. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to even exist. I don't want to eat. I don't want nothing. I just want to be left alone. And finally, she came in my room. She said, "Get dressed and get up." And I'm like, "What if I don't?" And she said, "You're going to get up and get dressed right now. You're coming with me." And I thought, oh, great. She's going to put me in a mental hospital, right? And I probably would have deserved it if she did. But no, actually, we had to exchange a DVD because the one we got, it wasn't playing in any of our players, so the DVD was defective. So we were gonna exchange it for, the same movie but a better DVD. And I was dissociating. I don't remember really the trip to Walmart. I just remember thinking, she's gonna take me to the cops or something, isn't she? And no, she didn't. We went to Walmart. So I was just kind of robotically following her, in through the store, and I had my head down, my mask on and everything. Nobody could see my face. So, like, I was just kind of crying quietly because I didn't want anybody to know. I was dragging my feet. I was walking super slow. It's like I was just walking through sludge. I wasn't even thinking. I was just like a blank slate. I wasn't there. I just wanted to lay down on the floor and let everybody step on me. And after we exchanged the DVD, my mom, she took two $20 bills out of her purse and she pushed them into my hand, and she's like, let's walk around and see if there's something you like. And I'm like, we just had Christmas. And she's like, I don't care. We're gonna walk around. I'm getting emotional. And like, I was frozen in place, so she took my hand, and she knows where I like to go into Walmart. I like to look at the clothes and I like to look at the toys. So she took me to the toy section first, because we would come around to the clothes section next anyway. So she just led me past it into the toy section where the fidget toys were, and she was pulling fidget toys out of, like, off the shelves and stuff, and like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And she put a popper in my hand that it's in my choir folder because it's almost the asexual flag colors. It was kind of black, gray, white, and purple, and it's octagon shaped. And I have that in my choir bag, but I bought that. And she pulled something off the shelf, and she's like, what's an infinity cube? And, like, she was trying to engage me to get me to be present. And, and she put it in my hands where I was looking, because I just had my head down. I wasn't looking at anything. So she put it in my hands. She's like, here, what is this? Like, she was she just put it in front of me because I was looking down. So she put it in my hand where I was looking, and she's like, what is this? What does this do? And I'm like, it's an infinity cube. It's a STEM toy. I was talking like I was just completely wasted drunk. Like, it's a STEM toy. Like, it was very obvious I was not okay. And she said, well, here's one. You like astronomy, right? Like, she knows I love astronomy, but she's like, you like astronomy, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, look at this one. It was this infinity cube, which it's space themed. So, and I'm like, well, that's pretty. It's purple. It's got stars. And she's like, okay, good. Let's get it. Let's get it then. Let's get it. And I'm like, okay. And she took me around. She's like, and I'm like, where are we going? And she's like, wherever you want. And I'm like, can I look at shirts? And she's like, okay. And she took my hand, and she took me around to the front, and she's like, I'm gonna go to the restroom, so just look around, and if you see something, go ahead, pick it out. And I had my head down like this, and I looked up, and it was this hoodie was hanging on the rack. It was the only size small, but I saw the butterfly, and I was immediately drawn to it. So, I took it down off the rack, on the hanger, and I checked the tag, and it was a size small. And I'm like, there was no more size smalls. It was just that one. Like, it was there for me. And And my mom came back, and and I was feeling the sleeves on it, and I was feeling the interior to make sure it would be sensory friendly, and it is super soft. Like, it is like very soft and warm. It's like wearing a blanket almost. Or as Tiffany would say, it's like a sweater hug. And my mom, she's like, "Oh, that's pretty." And I'm like, "I like the butterfly." And I didn't realize there was writing on it at the time. But she's like, she put her arm around me. She's like, "Okay, we'll get it. Here, use that money. We'll buy it." And so I bought it, and I start crying while we're in line in the checkout. And I had my mask on so nobody could see it. But if I'd said anything, you would have heard it. So I just kind of nodded my head and signed thank you. And I was wearing my ear defenders and everything, so I'm pretty sure the clerk could tell this is an autistic person in front of me. But anyway, I had it in the bag, and my mom, she came alongside me, and I opened the bag to look at it, and that's when I saw the writing, and I'm like, "Mom, this says stuff." Like, that was the moment I kind of, like, came back to myself. And I was seeing the writing on this, be kind to your mind, focus on the good things, live, laugh, love, dream. And my mom said, "See, that was meant for you." And, she said, "I care that you hurt, and I just wish I could help you, but I don't know how to help you." So, but it was her way of letting me know that she was aware that I was in pain, and she just didn't know what to do about it, but she wanted me to know that she noticed. And then in let's see, then in January, that's when my dad had to go because there was something wrong with his hip, and he had to go to the emergency room. And then he was in a rehab facility that was supposed to be for a couple months, but he got kicked back out in just a few weeks, and that was a fiasco. And then in February, I went to see Dr. M, that's my psychiatrist, and I had the tears just pouring down my face because I answered that little they give you like this little survey thing that, like, how are you feeling, and a lot of my answers were on the extreme end of, I want to kill myself and I don't want to exist anymore and I'm not functioning. And she was really concerned, so she's like, "I'm going to start you on an antidepressant because it's time." Because I've been trending towards depression for a long time, but with the suicide attempt, and she's like, "Are you still in danger?" And I'm like, "If I could jump out the window now, I would." Like, that's how bad it was. Like, every day I was thinking about it and thinking of ways I could do it every day. But I wore this hoodie to that session with her, and I agreed to the antidepressant because I was getting ready to walk out of my choir too. Like, this really hurt my faith. Not that God exists, but that God cares. I'd put my rosary down, I'd taken my cross off, and I would go to church, but that was it. But I felt like I was lying, singing about how loving God is when it didn't feel like He loved me. And I felt like He was ignoring me. But Dr. M convinced me, "Well, stay with your choir because that gets you away from your dad for a little while, and you need to get away from him for that little amount of time. However many minutes you can get away from him, you always take it." So I started the antidepressant, and then, the next month, March, I started therapy with Laura, and, I've kind of been progressing from there. But that's the story of how I got this hoodie. And it was not easy to tell. I mean, I'm really ashamed of how I acted. But there shouldn't be that shame. the stigma of being mentally ill is just, we gotta be kinder to ourselves, because we really are the cruelest to ourselves. We're way crueler to ourselves than our abusers could ever be. And part of therapy for me is learning not to be cruel. I don't need to be my own abuser, and you shouldn't either. But this was a really hard story to tell. But this hoodie means something. And the reason I'm wearing it now is because we're about to embark on a triggering time of year, and this is kind of a way to remind me of this is not 2023, because I didn't have this in 2023. I didn't have this hoodie. So as we go through Thanksgiving, it's a reminder to myself. When I need to remind myself of where I am, I can put this on. It's going to go on the wash after this week, but I can go in my closet and take it out and just hug it and hold it, or just put it on over whatever I'm wearing, or just sit and look at it. But it's a visual cue that this is not 2023, because the flashbacks can get so bad. And I had a few while I was telling you the story. I could hear myself, my own voice, screaming at my dad the way I did. And no matter how miserable of a man he is, he did not deserve what I said. Even if what I said was true, some of the things, I didn't repeat everything to you that I said to him, but there were things I said that were very true, but I don't want to repeat them. But, gosh, this is almost 30 minutes. Good grief. But, it was hard. But I'm glad I told the story, because sometimes you might see somebody wearing something and it has a story, and I want you to know what the story of this hoodie is. My butterfly hoodie. I want you to know what that story is, so I wear it to feel strong. I love you. And it's hard, and depression, anxiety, trauma, they are hard. And it's even worse because, my therapist is on strike because of the Kaiser Permanente crap. Yeah, they're still striking. It's been a month. So I hope she comes back. But I think I can make it through because of what we've done before. But I don't want to start over. I don't want therapy to be like a Sisyphus exercise where I'm pushing uphill and then the boulder comes all the way down and I have to start from the bottom to push it to the top again. I don't want that with a new therapist. So, Kaiser, get your shit together. Anyway, I love you, and be safe, and take care of yourselves.